aspects of health. That's right. It's not just about your bank account. It's about your social health, your physical health, mental health, spiritual health, intellectual health, and of course, one of the six is your financial health. Today, we are focusing on financial health and the topic of utilities. Rising energy costs, new technology on solar, etc., etc. We got three awesome guests who are going to give us tips on how to improve our financial health with our utilities. If you have never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental beliefs that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. We are on a mission to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest version of themselves that they can be, and in the spirit of authenticity, to remove any and all bias. We do not talk about tips or advice before the show starts, so you are about to hear from our three guests on their real life journey the same time that I hear about them. Now, if you're here watching the show, this is a very interactive show. Please comment, please ask questions, because we do put them on air live and answer them. Feel free to comment any way that you can on any medium. We monitor all of it. And if you're sitting there going, man, I have some things I know how to share, I got some pieces of advice, we'd love to have you as a guest. We're dropping the link right now. Please join us, be a guest. Anyone can join. We'd love to hear what you got to share, and we'll find a show that fits you perfectly. And if you're sitting there going, man, I cannot get through this, I wish I knew more about blank, let us know what that is. If you have topics, we love topic ideas, and we'd love to put them on the show. We will go out and find three awesome guests in order to answer your question and give you some tips on your topic. And if you like what we do, we love sharing and giving info. Please love us back, send stars, share, like, subscribe, whatever it is, wherever you're watching. And if you want even more one-on-one tips and advice, I do offer a free consultation. If you want to hop on a call with me and just chat, we're dropping that link right now. Merchandise is now available. If you want to wear your Millionaires Are Made awesome merch, we're dropping that link now. Go buy yourself a shirt or a mug or a calendar and be awesome. And last but not least, this episode is brought to you by some amazing sponsors. First off, we have Craig Sakowski, is a human behaviorist and mentor who helps entrepreneurs discover their true identity, purpose, and achieve growth in business and life. They talk about that life-work balance, and Craig nails it down. Next, our sponsor is Sarah Jones. Sarah had lived a life buried in debt with a failing marriage, unhappy as hell, but still had money. Spent the time, went through some programs, failed, and found out that she can figure out her own way through her money mess. And now she helps people as a financial coach, helping people build healthy financial foundations to live the life they deserve. She travels the U.S. in a camper van RV with her husband too. Pretty cool. Our next sponsor is Cam Knight. Cam is a strategic thinker who turned career uncertainty into a path of mastery, got laid off, took the CPA exam, mastered how to learn, techniques to learn like mind mapping and speed reading, and he proved intelligence is a skill, not a gift. Now he empowers others to learn faster, think sharper, and achieve more. And last but not least, we have Jeremy Roderick, author of Lead Like a King and a coach to high-value dads who refuse to settle for a life of frustration and quiet resentment. We all know relationships are difficult as hell, and if you've been married or in a long-term relationship, things might not be as crazy awesome as the honeymoon phase. Jeremy will teach you and help guide you to be a king in your house and have a happy marriage, family, etc., etc. And without further ado, I guess it's time to bring out our first guest, one of our favorites, Ben. Ben, tell us, who are you?
Hey, Austin, good to see you again. I'm just a guy trying to stay warm down here in Florida. And, well, I've got a lot of experience staying warm now, a couple of years down here. But most people know me as a guy who gets them their health insurance or helps them save a bunch of money on their mortgage. My kids know me as their stepdad, and my grandkids know me as Pops.
Pops. All right, trying to stay warm in Florida. Ben, I've got a question for you. Speaking of warmth and utilities, if I wanted to improve my financial health with my utilities, what piece of advice would you give me?
I've got a lot of experience in making houses more efficient than they were when they were built. So if you want to pay less money towards, for example, your electric bill or your gas bill, the best way is to keep your house from leaking energy. And to do that, there's a special type of insulation. It's very boring. It's chewed up newspaper. They call it cellulose. I don't know. But you put it into a machine that forces it into the walls and into the attic. And when you force it in under pressure, it seals up all the cracks where the air leaks out, and that's all your hot air leaking out in the winter, or all your nice, cool, air conditioned air leaking out in the summer. Neither one of those things you want. So to keep your house, like it's like putting a warm blanket on your house and keeping all the heat from escaping. You insulate those walls, therefore you don't use as much energy, therefore you don't pay for as much energy. Does that make sense?
I like the warm blanket for your house analogy. That's fitting. So don't most houses have insulation
They
built in?
do, and it's usually the inexpensive kind that isn't packed in to all those little cracks and crevices under high pressure. When you push it in there under high pressure, it's something that seals up all the air leaks. So the inexpensive loose fill insulation doesn't do that. It lets air move through the house, which means it lets air move all the heat or all the cool air out of the house. And then you've got to pay to warm that air again or to cool down that air again in your house. So you want it packed into the walls super tight, and you want it fluffy on top of the ceiling in your attic to at least, I would say, 24 inches. 18 is the bare minimum, but at least 24 inches. That way the heat can't escape, or if it's the summer, the heat can't get through into your home.
Where on your life journey did you learn this, Ben? And how did you learn that the standard insulation is cheap and crappy?
I learned it by insulating houses for the state of Iowa when I was a teenager and younger adult. And so we would go in to help folks that had heating assistance from the government to pay their heating bill in the winter. The government said, what if we spend some of that money making their house so efficient we barely have to pay anything, or we have to pay half as much? So we would get old, 100-year-old farmhouses to be as efficient or nearly as efficient as a brand new build by filling up those wall cavities. You know, when you open up a wall and you see those studs up and down the walls, every space in between those two studs, we would fill so full of insulation, the air couldn't move in and out of the house. So it was great for lower heating bills. Therefore, not as much of your tax dollars was going towards paying for these folks' utilities. It ended up saving the state a lot of money.
How much? Okay, so how much is like the initial cost to get this type of insulation done?
I think you're looking at a bare minimum of $5,000 to $10,000. But if you're staying in this house for 5 years or longer, it'll pay for itself by then.
And it'll add value to the house, I
It'll
assume,
add
right?
value to the house. And one thing you notice when you really insulate those walls tight, you don't hear as much noise from outside. Your house is quieter. You don't like your neighbors' really loud Leonard Skinner records? Well, hey, go ahead and insulate that house and you won't hear them anymore.
I love it. Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. We will move on to our next guest, and we'll bring you out in the round robin here. Next, we have Lori. Lori, who are
Hey,
you?
good morning. I am the crazy and relentless serial entrepreneur. I actually just launched my mergers and acquisition. I can't even talk today. Mergers and acquisition business yesterday. So I'm a little bit of a hot mess all over the place and just trying to get it all together. I'm a mom, I'm a Grammy, I'm a multiple business owner, and I'm just excited about being here, getting to view your that background is just everything. I'm just here for that.
It's just Zoom Premium, $5 a month, something like
Right.
that. Lori, if I wanted to improve my financial health with my utilities, what simple piece of advice would you give me?
This really speaks to me. My dad was in charge of power utilities for the city when I grew up as a kid.
Oh wow.
and he actually did commodity brokering for buying and selling electricity. And so I had to visit like every dam known to man, right? I had to learn more about electricity than I ever wanted. It
Cool.
was really cool, but as a kid, I was like, can we please do something else? And of course, I lived with the you weren't born in a barn, shut the door, right? So I was really almost like this was ingrained in me when I was a kid. So I really had to learn about utilities very early on. So some tips that I don't think that like a lot of people are aware of is the fact that you can actually like negotiate your utility bill. You can call them up and say, hey, you know what? This is like not working for me. I need to better understand my bill. And sometimes they're going to tell you no, but the more you push, I've actually gotten into situations where it has been negotiated. They've been able to lower the bill for me. I'm here in California. I got a pretty big house. My electric bill runs about $700 a month on average. So
Jesus.
yeah, a lot of people kind of are in shock, and then there's a lot of other things that go into the blah blah the deliverability of my electricity. So there's a lot of people getting paid, right? But if you don't know what you're able to do, right, negotiating utilities is like huge. I didn't think that that was something that we could actually do, and you can put some more money back into your pocket. Of course, the lazy way, things that my dad made me do. He had timers on for lights. Every room in the house had like those annoying twist timers that the timer would go on for 5 minutes and shut off. He would make us unplug everything. Didn't matter if we were using it or not. It got unplugged because there's still a charge, right? That is being.
Right.
So I kind of had a little bit of PTSD when I saw this because I was like, oh gosh, no, like I'm gonna have to like talk about my childhood and you know, really focusing on learning like how to read the bill. That's another one. If you don't know how to read a bill, then how do you know what you're paying for? How do you know what to negotiate? Learning about peak demand hours. If you are using your utilities, like your big utilities, when it's high peak, which is like when everybody's home from work and school, you're going to pay more versus like using them in the morning, using them in the afternoon. If you're lucky like me and get to work from home, then those are things that, I've come to the realization these are things that we could really do to keep that money in our pocket because it does kill me. $700 to part with every month roundabout. And that's just for electricity. We're not even talking water, right? So I do a lot of,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy. You're
I do a
insane.
lot of recycled water. So anything that I can recycle water with, I water my plants. Um, I have to make sure that, of course, I'm going to have turf put in because no more grass.
So that this is something kind of cool that people may not know is the peak hour. So you get charged per kilowatt hour differently based on when you use it almost anywhere in the
Yep.
US. Um, so I'm familiar with Colorado. My power bill in Colorado is like 18,000 a month, but we change our hours based on yeah, so we do a lot of overnight working or early morning. The peak hours are usually what, like 12 to 6, like noon to 6 p.m., somewhere around there. Um, Obviously, it varies by company, but it's roughly right around the afternoon and evening when everyone's home from work and whatnot. And so, if you can take a nap then, or turn off your AC during those times, that's could significantly. Sometimes it's like 50% cheaper to run power in the middle of the night than it is in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
So that could really help, especially if you can move your work and you like being a night owl. It can save you a lot of money on utilities there.
absolutely. I mean, it just goes back to, I think we were joking about it, you have to jump into the phase of becoming an adult. And I think like the younger generation doesn't understand, hey, we're not going to go and just click the Amazon button and keep buying stuff because, we have electricity to pay, utilities to pay, water to pay, trash to pay. And those things aren't cheap anymore. And we take for granted that somebody else paid them our whole lives. And now it's like real adulting steps in. It's like, how are you going to save money on these things? Because, yeah, I would love to put that $700 towards going where you are on a trip, right? Like, it kills me sometimes to
Yeah.
know. But I think the last thing I wanted to share too is that knowing like what programs are available through utility companies, because they have a lot of programs. It is boring to waste your Saturday morning sitting through one of the little webinars, but if it's going to save you $100 a month, that's $100 a month that you get to put towards something else, right? Whether it's building memories or, buying something that you really wanted. I don't know. College fund. It just makes sense to spend some time creating the knowledge around these things that we have to pay. We don't want to. We have to pay them, right? I mean, that's at least how I feel.
Right, right. All right, Laura, thank you so much. We're going to bring our next guest out. Next up, we have Steve. Steve, tell us, who are you?
My name is Steve McAllister. I'm a Renaissance man and lifestyle stunt man. I've lived for a year without using money. I lived for a decade without using gasoline. In the last 4 years, I've ridden my motorcycle to all of the lower 48 contiguous states. And just this year, I finished my 11th book. So, I'll probably be running for president in 2028 too. So be on the lookout for the anti-bunk party.
The anti-what?
Anti-bunk party. I do a show based on the political humor of Will Rogers. In 1928, he was the only person to ever speak at both the Democratic and Republican conventions, ever. In that same year, Life magazine created the anti-bunk party, to get the bunk out of politics. And they nominated him as their presidential candidate. And when he didn't win, he just said that the anti-bunk party was 100 years ahead of times. And so 2028 is coming up soon, and I think we got a lot of bunk still to get out of there.
That is amazing. Yeah. All right, we're gonna have to have you on for your political campaign. Absolutely. We'll get some very political shows for you on that one. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, well, I guess utilities can be very politically important as well, economy and expenses and, day to day. So if I wanted to improve my financial health regarding my utilities, Steve, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, I think, a lot of it's awareness, being aware of how much you're actually using. We're very accustomed in this society to, we're raised to be consumers. We're a very consumerist country. So we don't always really give consideration to how much energy we're actually using or how much water we're actually using. We often get very nonchalant, especially with this younger generation. I don't think is taught the same way that I was taught and you were probably taught, to turn those lights off when you leave the room and all those little things. But there are, just being aware.
Shut the fridge, don't stare.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of it is just the awareness of, what energy are you using or what utilities are you using, however you are, and how can you maybe use them better? Like as far as water is concerned, we would, the house I was living in, I'm in a townhouse now. I don't have that luxury, but I had a garden out back and everything, and we had water barrels to collect the water, and so we would use those outside. And even when I was going to take a shower, while I'm letting that water just run to warm up, I'd collect that in a bucket, so I could use that water for watering and stuff, and I wasn't having to use all that extra water. I was just using what was actually coming out anyway. So little things like that are really the big part. Laura talked about timers as well, as annoying as they can be, the ones that turn off. I have a friend who's got his house decked out with timers. So the lights he needs turn on when he needs them, and they turn off when he doesn't need them. And being aware of where you're using those energies and when you're using them and shutting them off is a big part of it right there.
All right, Steve, tell us where on your life journey you learned all this.
Oh gosh, just living different places and doing different things. There've been times in my life where I've learned from other people who I've lived with, and they're a little more conscious of that sort of thing. And then also, learning from people who aren't aware of it at all and seeing the wastefulness that they do just makes me a little bit more aware of what I'm doing and how I'm using my energies and utilities and such. Yeah, just being conscious of it.
Sometimes you watch people and that makes you cringe. You're like, what? That's how you live your life?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what you do.
Awesome, Steve. All right, well, we're gonna we're going to bring everyone else out here in just a second
Right.
and start our round robin. Audience, this will be a great time to ask questions that you want to see answered. Real quick, I'm going to give you a little lowdown on a tiny little island that has very bad power. So our utilities are virtually non-existent. Our power company is state-run and runs at a giant loss, has no money, power outages pretty much every day. But solar is huge. You can see we have our big solars here, batteries, as well as rainwater, which I'm about to ask everyone. Here we have cisterns. Almost every house has a cistern, and we reuse rainwater and then solar for the sun. So we are almost at this house off the grid at least. And that's kind of how a lot of islands are. But a lot of them don't have the solar or the money for the solar or the infrastructure or knowledge or all those millions of other reasons why you may not have solar. And therefore, you have to rely on the tiny island power plants that may or may not work. But if you can get some solar, get a cistern, it's the way to go. All right, guys, I have a question for you. There's a lot of municipalities that don't allow you to collect rainwater. Do you live in them? What are your thoughts? Steve, you're going to be running for president, so hopefully you just say let everyone have their rainwater. Talk to me, guys.
Yeah, I don't have it now, but it's definitely legal here in Florida to do that, at least in Sarasota.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it is over in Daytona Beach or whatever, but I've got a number of friends who do that because, especially in the summertime, it rains every day for at least 15 minutes or so. Just those, the volume of water that comes through that, fills those things right up. So that's an incredible help, especially if you've got a garden or something like that where you're continually using that sort of water and such. Rain barrels are essential.
Yeah, over here in Daytona Beach, I don't have to water the grass. It happens every day for about, like you said, 15 minutes at least. A deluge of water fills up the pool a little bit for me, so I don't have to run the hose out to the pool. And it's a really nice thing to have that. But we don't collect rainwater so much at this location. We don't have a garden right now. But that's something that we're looking forward to. Growing up in the Midwest, a lot of people had cisterns for their gardens. And it's just a great way to collect and reuse the rainwater we're already getting for free.
I mean, you can use a cistern for yourself. You just throw a filter on it. Our cistern turns into our drinking water. I still throw it through a zero water / Brita. But for showering, you throw a cistern, throw a filter, shower in that clean rainwater. And I have not paid for water in over a year that I've lived here.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, but I do know that there are some places it's illegal to collect rainwater. And I guess since none of us have that experience, I don't know why they would charge that. Maybe the city just wants their money for it. Kind of interesting though, but I feel like everyone should have some sort of cistern. Why not, right? Collect that water and reduce your bill.
Yeah, anything you could do to not use more resources than is absolutely necessary. That's a core to a lot of people's beliefs nowadays. Just don't use what you don't have to use. Conserve where you can conserve. It's just good stewardship of the natural resources that we already have.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's kind of almost like a social responsibility. For sure. You can just waste, if you got the money, you can waste the water, go with the city's water, have 20 filters, yada yada yada. But in the end, it's like there's only so much water on this planet, and we already know there's people that don't have clean water in parts of the world, and we're sitting here, luxury is hell. And so I'm glad you brought that up a little bit.
Sure.
In California, this hits really hits me hard because we are constantly in a drought. It doesn't rain here very often.
Same with Colorado, yeah.
And we have some cute mottos like brown is the new green. The people that actually are caring about the environment and the fact that we're always in a drought. What's the point of having a lawn? It's aesthetically appealing. That's it. There's no purpose. It doesn't serve a purpose. And so I love it when I go into neighborhoods and people have literally ripped out all of their lawns and replaced it with a garden. Yeah, it's so cool. So they're growing all their own food in their front yard instead of I actually got turf because I live in an HOA. They said no to the garden. So I said, okay, cool. So my face was like that too, Ben, when they said no. But it's everything here is so heavily encouraged to the point it's even if there's a car wash now, All car washes have to use recycled water or they will not be able to open and operate. So the systems that they have are super cool. I love going and just sometimes looking to see what type of system they installed. Maybe is showing my age here that I get excited over water systems at the car wash, but it's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, why are we why are we using all these resources? Especially in a state where I live, where fires are happening nonstop. And then everybody wonders why we don't have the water to put the fires out. Well, y'all keep doing things that are not, helping us to retain the water that we have. And then they complain when we don't have it. So it's an interesting cycle sometimes that I see. But yeah, I really would love to have my entire house to be able to conserve water. I wish it did. I just haven't gotten that far in the setup because I'm on retirement mode. So maybe becoming a bougie nomad like Sarah Jones that you mentioned is in the near future. And then I could kind of put all those household filters into my RV when I get one and feel like I'm making a difference in this world. Because right now, that's probably the one thing that I'm not doing enough of. So yeah.
On that nomad talk, living in boat life, there's almost, I would say, most of the new boats and most of the old boats are getting retrofitted to have water makers and solar, so they are essentially off the grid as much as possible. Especially if it's a sailboat, then you got wind, power, and water. You can just live forever as long as there's a little breeze. Take it wherever you want. And I think that's super trendy right now. I think a lot of people, I mean, obviously solar, renewable energy is going into it, but I think people are even trying to figure out how to get water and other things to make sure that they lower their costs. Steve, do you have any utility specific, anything on your campaign regarding utilities or renewable energy?
No, not necessarily. I look more to economic conditions and such. So I haven't really addressed that in my the planks of my platform so far. But it is one of those things. As you said, there are I think those municipalities where water collection is banned and such. And unfortunately, we live in a society that doesn't always appreciate that type of citizenry of like Ben said, it's our responsibility as good citizens to take care of the resources we're given and that sort of thing. But we're also in a society that serves, capitalism as the end all be all and economic growth as the most important thing. So I think a lot of these laws are put in place because if you're getting free water, well, that means you're not buying it. And, we're very much about making people buy everything that they have because that's the way our system works. And I think we're getting a lot more people who are opening up to a more resilient way of looking at the world. And as you said, getting off grid and finding ways to live more sustainably and in harmony and in ways that don't, tax us to death with all the money we have to spend to pay for all this.
And just being able to be independent from all these different government agencies telling us you've got non-bypassable charges on your electric bill. Yeah, you can have solar. We'll let you have solar, but we're going to charge you for the interconnect fee. What's the interconnect fee? Well, that's the fee that we just charge because we want to.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if we didn't have to charge fees just because some commission somewhere that I probably didn't even participate in the election says that you have to pay this. Otherwise, we can't afford to pay us to be on this commission. I would like to see that, even a water bill gets lowered. They'll lower the water bill, but they'll increase the non-bypassable charges every month. So there's a guaranteed flow of income for them, which then justifies higher salaries, for the folks that run it. I just don't want to be dependent on them. I don't believe they're all super smart people and have my best interest in mind. Lots of wonderful people run commissions, even volunteer to do so without getting paid. And they actually do care about the quality of the water and the quality of the care that people have. I would just like to be less dependent on other people in government, have my own electricity, have my own supply of water, or like Austin brought up, the boating life. That's fantastic. Then you don't have to worry about anything. It's just you and the wind and the sun.
Yeah, and Steve, kind of like you brought up, it's capitalism, and there's definitely a lot of money in utilities. I mean, oh gosh, I forgot the water company that bought up all the utilities and ended up selling it to some French guy. I mean, it was like I think it was called USA Water or something, early 2000s. Massive, massive guy. Water had never been consolidated, and so he went in and bought a water company and then ended up buying all the municipalities, companies. Super smart. But anyways, it's almost the same argument. If everyone gets all their, let's see this point I'm trying to make. Everyone's getting all these cisterns and making their own water. There's going to be more economy of cisterns, of filters, something like that. And the government may not be making it, which obviously, like Ben said, the commission won't get paid for their commission of fees of commissioning those fees.
Yeah.
And then, but it's almost the same argument as like the car and AI, is AI going to take jobs? It's going to take types of jobs. Is capitalism going to overgrow it and create new jobs? I mean, there's a lot of optimism to that. Just like the assembly line and cars over horses, the internet itself in the 90s, is it going to take jobs? It's going to take some. And it might take away money from the government. But if the government's smart, well, we can debate about that. Maybe if Steve's running it, then the government will be able to figure out some other way to either tax it or, tax your cistern, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't really believe in that either. But there's got to be some way to do it. Or maybe they have a water interchange, like an eBay for water, where you can buy and sell and they take a little cut of that, something like that. I don't know. I have faith that there's some way that they'll figure out how to do it while still letting us collect our own rainwater. Yeah. When I learned that you can't collect rainwater, that always irked me. I thought that was weird as heck. And then I moved down here and everyone does it. And it's just such a much better, simpler system. And there's a lot of cistern companies here that build cisterns, repair cisterns, monitor cisterns, clean cisterns, all that kind of stuff. So there is like a little cistern economy, and I don't know if it affects how the government utilities get with water. I haven't really done that research yet, but hopefully, I don't know. I still vote we all get cisterns.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Yeah.
You gotta be.
All right, guys. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Get your house insulated.
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh no, I was going to say, get your house insulated. Less of the heat gets in the summer, and less of the heat gets out in the winter, and then you're gonna have a lower bill. Get solar. I mean, it's expensive to start, but it'll last a very long time if you don't have hail damage anyway. Those little things you can do to just lower your bill over time, that pays for itself.
Yeah,
and solar nowadays is. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
You got to be aware of where you're living. Like you mentioned, there are municipalities that make it illegal to cut rainwater, and of course, with any HOA, you've got all these restrictions on you as well. And if you're one of those, freedom-minded people, you got to be aware of what you're getting into and what those limitations are going to be on you. The last house I lived in, the front yard was the only yard in the neighborhood. There was a mango orchard. So every other house, they had their grass just like everybody else, but this one had just mango trees all out front. So July was like paradise with all these mangoes in the yard, and it's fantastic. And I don't think people give enough thought to the joy of being able to grow your own food like that. Back, I guess it was like in a feudalistic society when the bourgeoisie said that they don't need to grow food all around their homes like everybody else was at the time. And that's where these massive lawns came into popularity, was because it was this sign of being of this upper class. And it's moved over here to America, and we all have these lawns, and as Laura said, they don't do anything other than give us something to mow and water and spend all this extra energy on. I mean, if you're going to spend a little less energy on it, you could have yourself a garden, you could have yourself an orchard, you could have something that actually produces something you can use. So put yourself in that position where you'll be able to use the homestead you have to meet your needs, and make sure you can do that and not have to deal with all the little organizations people have put up to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
That's the end of my sermon.
All right. we've got 2 questions here. We're going to answer super fast. What key financial metrics should I analyze to assess the health of a utility company? So some places you only get one. I know in Colorado there's just Excel, but in Texas and Dallas there was like 25 to pick from. How do you guys decide in your locations?
I'm like you. We only get one to choose from, so there's a monopoly there.
Yeah, FPL owns this, and most of them are owned by BlackRock and Vanguard anyway. So their financial health is outstanding, close to $1 trillion. And so to find one that's local and independent, you almost have to go to a state like Texas that has that open market for energy. But here in Florida, it's FPL or Duke, I think, are about the only choices you have. And that's my zip code.
So crazy.
It depends on where you live too, because I mean, like in Sarasota, we have FPL. That's it. Duke doesn't even come here. I think there are places where only Duke is available and FPL is not available. So yeah, we don't get much of a choice.
But they're mostly owned by the same people. You know, they have huge investment firms. They know where the money is. They're smart. So I think that they have plenty of money to operate, but they charge a lot for what they provide. Also, you got to take care of the investors.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got one last question. What are the most energy efficient appliances worth investing in / solar?
Air conditioning in Florida.
Efficient air conditioning?
That runs all the time.
I think that's kind of too.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just agreeing with Ben. I mean, it's really nice weather here all year round, but, having the AC and heater unit, those are the 2 things that like you need to make sure that you have every energy efficient, like, capability available to you. But you got to know what you're shopping for too, right? Like I was really frustrated when I went to go look for a new refrigerator. I was like, wait, this one will save me $533 a year. This one will save me $1,000 a year. Like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize I needed to really educate myself this much. And I just wanted a fridge, just want to keep my food cold, So I really think it comes down to what do you use the most? What's your climate? Where do you live? Right. I don't use my heater very much, but I do use my AC a lot more. So just where you're at, I think is going to determine, like we've all kind of noted the big differences, right? Of where we live. It's very drastic based on, I'm in a drought, you're always raining. So yeah, I think it just depends on where you're at.
All right, I lied. We have one more question, and it's a good one. Power Song says, do you guys know about some common hidden fees on utility bills?
I don't think they're hidden anymore. I think they're non-bypassable fees now. Like they're upfront about the fact that you can't bypass this, even if you have solar that more than produces enough energy for your household. You have to pay us these 15 little fees. And it adds up to $20 a month maybe, but those are what used to be the hidden fees. Now they are the non-bypassable fees. We can't hide them anymore. Now that you have solar and you know the game, we're not going to let you get away from paying these fees.
And so how do you get rid of those? You have to pass an order, like you have to get your citizens sign petitions or something like that?
Move out in the middle of nowhere. Don't have them run electricity.
So you're just bound by city laws. Yep. City law says you have to pay the
same people that run the electric company have really good lobbyists also at the state and local level that say, hey, we can't operate here if people are just going to go off and do their own thing. We need that money. And I get it. It is a business, really. A utility is a business that has to make money. And so they've said, look, you can have all the free power you want from your solar, but you're still going to pay us to be your utility. And you can't get away from that. Everybody has to pay.
All right, Steve. Sounds like we see some issues with modern government.
Help us, Steve.
Yeah,
all right, guys, it's time.
Like Ben said, it's unfortunately we're kind of beholden to these companies. Like here where I am, you've only got FPL. That's it. They're the only people who are going to provide you with power. So we're kind of stuck. Paying whatever they say they're going to charge us. We don't really have a choice in that matter.
Yeah. Kind of frustrating a little bit, huh?
Right there.
I guess that's one of the benefits of this island is if you do get solar and water, you don't have to pay anything, so that's great.
I'm moving in with Austin, guys.
Yeah, a little bit.
Same.
There's enough solar for one more person. All right, guys, it's time for us to come up with our daily challenge. We must create a task or series of tasks that helps us improve our financial health regarding our utilities. It must take less than 5 minutes a day, cost $0, and be available to anyone in the world from Kamchatka to Kathmandu. Thoughts?
Unplug it. Whatever it is, unplug it at night.
Ooh, every night unplug something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shift your energy usage to peak so that you're not on peak hours.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's unplug something every day. I mean, you're probably going to plug it back in at some point. But I like just the act of going and fuck you, power company. All right, unplugging every day. Yeah, I'm gonna be an aggressive unplugger. Hopefully, I don't break anything. All right, what was the next thing you just said? Yeah, peak hours. So, I mean, first we have to look at them, and then, try to alter our schedule, and that's smart. If your peak hours are, I think they're usually like say roughly noon to 6 p.m., something like that, 3 to 8 p.m., depending on where you're at. So try to use some of your power. Maybe you dry your hair, Ben, in the mornings instead of in the evenings. And maybe you curl your hair. Yeah, your curling is all in the mornings or in the middle of the night. You got to curl it. All right, so let's move one activity to off-peak hours for usage. So I guess if like you're blending, I mean anything. I guess the point is it's just making us more aware of when peak hours are, and kind of being like, oh, look, peak hours are almost up. Quick, use all the power you can right now. And I don't know if I have peak hours down here. If not, I'll just look at Denver's and copy theirs or whatever. All right, that's man. Those are two really good. I like that for a challenge. It's really gonna push some people. Any last thoughts before we log off here?
A computer in sleep mode is not completely unplugged. Go ahead and shut it all the way down at night and unplug that sucker. Same with your phone. Well, you want it charging, but I mean, if it's turned all the way off, it's using
I like that.
power.
Shut it all the way down at night. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I'm gonna put you all in the back room and wrap it up, man. That was solid. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Ben. All right. Well, there you have it. Nice little episode on financial health utilities. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about how to save money on your daily basis. I think peak hours are something I recently learned. Owning a giant grow and spending thousands of dollars, we had to actually shift schedules around so they're in the middle of the night more, and it saves us. I think it saved us like $3 or $4 grand a month on our like $18,000 bill. So it's huge. I think it'd be half the price is if you're doing 3 a.m. versus 3 p.m. You're paying half the price. So whatever you can figure out or do to get off those peak hours is huge. And obviously all the other tips are there as well. And hopefully you guys learned a little something.